Welcome to Pipeline and People, the show for founders and firm builders who want cleaner decisions and better weeks. I'm your host, Jaden Parisi. Today is not about revenue targets or quarterly goals. It's about time, specifically the invisible time tax we pay as small firm leaders when admin takes over our calendar. Our guest today is Brandon Mustful. He helps mission-driven leaders lead better. Today's episode is about reclaiming capacity, structuring impact, and building a firm that runs smoother, even when you're not in the room. Brandon Mustful is the founder of Mustful Strategic Consulting, a firm that helps nonprofits, churches, and public agencies turn vision into action. Brandon, thank you so much for being here today. Could you give a quick background?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Jaden. My background is primarily in nonprofits. I've worked for the Salvation Army. I've run a small nonprofit animal shelter here where I live. I've worked at Habitat for Humanity, and I have a master's degree in public policy with a concentration in nonprofit management. So I've done a lot with nonprofits, and for about the last 3.5 years, I've also run my own consulting business to help leaders create executable strategies and turn their vision into reality.
Very nice. It's quite interesting because I'm actually on the board of a local charity here that helps people experiencing homelessness. So I'm curious to get into today's episode. What I'd love to explore today is why admin overload is a silent drag on executive coaches and strategic advisors, where solo consultants and small teams waste the most time, some strategies or systems you have in place, and some advice and moves you might recommend. Sound good?
Yeah, sounds great.
All right. So you've supported everything from church boards to public agencies. What's the through line? What do all your clients really need?
Organization, they need help staying focused on that ultimate vision of success. We all get dragged down so easily in the day-to-day. You've mentioned admin a few times. That's a necessary aspect of any business. But then there's also things that just come at you every single day. I mentioned how I ran an animal shelter, and there wasn't a day that went by where we didn't have several calls about immediate needs that people have. And those are definitely important, and you want to serve those people the best that you can. But at the same time, if that's all you're ever doing, you're not going to be able to grow as an organization.
What convinced you that strategic planning and admin systems weren't just a nice to have thing? What was the catalyst for you to start your consulting business?
I learned about strategic planning and the practice of implementing strategic plans at the Humphrey School of Public Affairs in Minneapolis. I had a great class there and great mentoring. I took that to the real world and to the Humane Society that I was running. I found that it had real results, that it really helped us as an organization to stay focused on strategies that worked. The environment is always changing, but we saw results, we saw growth, and it felt like a lot of that was based on the creation and implementation of our strategic plan. And it just kind of grew from there. Other organizations reached out to me and I helped them with their strategic plans and ultimately decided that I enjoy doing it and wanted to do more of it. So I just put myself out there as a solo consultant.
Nice. Do you see a lot of common themes in your work with the type of businesses that you work with? What are the major problems that you end up solving time and time again?
Yeah, I think everybody's just overwhelmed. The pace of change is overwhelming. We all have similar problems. The issue of not enough volunteers, not enough board members, or not a diversity of board members. So many priorities. How do you prioritize those? A strategic plan can really line that up into what do we want to take care of, in the next 6 months? What are we reaching for in the next year? Where are we going in the next 3 to 5 years? It helps create alignment with all your programs toward shared goals.
Do you have a good example of a project where pre-engagement versus post-engagement was drastically different in what you did?
Well, you always have to be flexible, right? No matter what, it's a learning process. And me as the facilitator, when I come in, I ask a lot of questions. And throughout the process, it's really asking questions and helping those organizational leaders determine their own path forward. You always want to have tools in your toolbox and use them accordingly based on the situation with the particular nonprofit or church. I work with churches as well. And I've seen so many groups that they kind of bristle at the idea of strategic planning. I come in and I help make it engaging, and it just gives them a lot of confidence moving forward as opposed to being nervous about what are we going to do and how are we going to approach this issue.
Do you have any tools or systems or any kind of unique IP that makes your engagements or your services different from other people?
Yeah. The tool that I really love to use is called action-oriented strategy mapping. I don't use it every time. It's a little bit of a backwards way of doing some strategic planning. Essentially, you get to know the organization and have them do some environmental scanning first so they learn what are our strengths and weaknesses, what are the opportunities and challenges out there, who are our stakeholders, how do we have to satisfy them, what are our mandates, the laws and things like that you have to be aware of. So you do that environmental scan first, and from there, then you just take Post-it notes and everybody writes down ideas. Okay, what do we want to do in the next year to 3 years? What are some actions that we want to take? And you slap those up on the wall, and then as a group, sort and categorize them. Eventually, you create clusters, title the clusters, and say, okay, if we enact these things, what are we going to accomplish? That really tells you what your goals are. Once you have your goals, it helps you clarify your overall vision and where you're going. Yeah, I mean, I've done it in many different capacities with many different organizations. I can go back to the Humane Society where I worked. Ultimately, Great River Rescue is the organization that I was running. I published those strategic plans, and we would create a strategy map. It shows how you have your strategies and you you have priorities to those strategies, which ones we're going to focus on first, second, third, and how that all leads up to those accomplishments and goals, kind of interacts with your overall mission and vision. So I'm trying to think, on my LinkedIn profile, there's probably some examples of the strategic plans that I produced. You could definitely take a look there. Just look up Mustful Strategic Consulting on LinkedIn and you could see some examples of my work.
Will do. I can imagine that an engagement like that requires a lot. Is there any sort of tools that you use to help speed up the process, whether that's analyzing things using AI or using something as simple as a scheduling tool? How are you keeping up with this AI revolution we're in right now?
That's a great question. And it's never going to be a quick process, and you don't want it to be, because strategic planning is a process of learning. And a lot of times the value is really more in the process of developing the plan than in the plan itself. You learn so much about your organization, about the people within your organization, your values and culture. AI is a very useful tool for research. If you're working for a public agency, there might be some pretty lengthy ordinances or comprehensive plans that you need to take into consideration for your organization. And so it's very helpful to put those into something like Google Notebook and say, okay, pull out the pieces as it relates to this public agency and what we need to be aware of. Now, that's a lifesaver rather than having to page through all that yourself. Doing things like that. And then for strategic plans with mission and vision statements and stuff, of course, you want to write out your own. You want it to be from you, but AI can really help with nuancing it, tweaking it, and just giving some more ideas. So maybe you've come up with 3 draft vision statements. You can put that into AI. It can spit out a couple more that you can look at and give you some more ideas to work from.
For sure. What about as part of your engagement? Does anyone put a sticky note up on the board that has something to do with AI? I mean, it's kind of hard to avoid these days, right? So I would assume that it's kind of become part of the strategic planning outcomes.
Yeah, most agencies that I work with, when we're getting down to those strategies, do want to improve their technological literacy. They want to make sure that their staff are trained in it. They want to work on their communication. A lot of project management tools like Monday.com or Asana are kind of at the forefront. They want to look at how can we better use these tools and stay, if not ahead of the game, at least on pace with everybody else.
Do you use any of those tools for your own internal project management or a CRM system? The AI can help you be more efficient and productive in 70% of those areas: sales, marketing, research, like you mentioned. There's so many use cases, right? So,
Jaden, what maybe the problem with interviewing me is I'm really organized to begin with. I obviously lived in a world without all these tools for a long time. One of my systems is these pads of paper here, and simply putting down the work that I want to do today, on one sheet, but I've got longer term stuff on another sheet. and always keeping an eye on that. The pleasure of crossing that off as you go. Obviously, there's plenty of tools online. You've got your Google Calendar can keep track of tasks. If you've got a Microsoft suite of products, they've got checklists, a task list, something like that. Lots of online tools with Microsoft and Google. It really depends on you and your preferences. I use a combination of it all. I've got the pad and paper. Even before I go to bed, I might write down on that pad of paper some things that I am planning on doing tomorrow so that while I sleep, my brain can work on it. I kind of combine that with the tasks that Google Calendar can do. Google Sheets has project spreadsheets, right? I've used Monday.com before. That's a great tool, but I can do a lot of the same things just in my Google Sheet with the project sheet where you're setting priorities, you're setting timelines, you're doing the same kind of checklist where you can check things off when they're done and feel that sense of accomplishment. There's no one right way to do it, and there's a lot of tools out there. It's up to every entrepreneur to think about what works best for them. But I do think you need to have a process, you need to have a system, or you're going to get overwhelmed. And you have to categorize things. Needs to get done today. What can wait till tomorrow? You're never going to do all the things that need to get done. At the end of the day, you have to say, that's the end of the day. And close the computer and come back to it tomorrow.
It's always good to put pen to paper. I have my notebook just off to the side here, but I forgot who it was. I think Steve Jobs, he does something very similar. I don't know if there's a name for it, but he writes down kind of the most important 3 things that he needs to get done for every day. And that kind of helped him stay organized and get done exactly what he needed to do. I do something similar. We call it top 2. Just write down the 2 things that you need to get done today.
If you accomplish 2 things that you wanted to accomplish that day, that's definitely a good thing. Even email, obviously you can categorize email, you can put colors to them, you can do all sorts of things. For me, I have to unclutter that inbox. I cannot open an inbox and see 85 emails. I categorize and archive everything, and I address things as soon as I can. Some things obviously require a little more thought and processing, so maybe I'll leave a few emails for the next day. But for me, that's huge because I just can't have things sitting out there and worrying about them.
Yeah, I agree. This has been great. I'd like to move on to the rapid fire section. I have a few questions for you, just quick answers, whatever's on the top of your head. Sound
Great.
good? All right. What is one myth about strategic planning that you would love to debunk?
It's not hard. Not everybody can do it. That doesn't mean that it's for everybody, but it can be fun, engaging, and very worthwhile. It doesn't have to be as hard as you think it is.
Nice. What is one action that a founder or coach could take this week to win back some time or stay organized?
Honestly, this is going to sound counterintuitive. Spend time in quiet. Set aside 10 minutes to just stop. And whatever you need to do, meditation, prayer, just sitting outside and realizing there's a beautiful world out there, I think that is hugely productive. Just setting aside 10, 20 minutes of quiet time will really amplify everything else that you do.
You're in Minnesota, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's going to start to get cold soon.
Yeah.
Sit outside while you can.
About half the year sitting on the porch is not a very good idea, but is beyond beautiful with the snow. That's why I love living up here.
Yeah, I'm up in Toronto, Canada, so it's a
Right.
similar situation. What is the most unexpected lesson that you've brought from Paraguay or the Peace Corps to the boardroom?
We didn't talk about that in my background, but I did serve in the Peace Corps in Paraguay. The biggest lesson is that people are pretty much the same no matter where you go. There's obviously vastly different cultures, different ways of doing things, but at the heart of it all, we all have the same needs and the same need to connect, and we all want something better for ourselves and for our families. No matter what boardroom you go into, we're trying to improve things, trying to get better, but at the same time, we got to deal with our own issues, our own challenges.
Speaking of our own issues and challenges, what is the best piece of advice that you've ever been given?
That's a great question. This is not one that I just have on the top of my head. I got this profound advice.
Yeah, it's all right. Take a minute.
But I just think that relationships are what really matter. So, at the end of it all, that's what people, you're going to want them to be talking about is the type of person you are and how you gave yourself to others and the types of relationships you built with others. So you always want to make time for relationships. Yeah, I think that's something that has been instilled in me from people like my wife and church leaders. And I think that's really important.
Now more than ever, I think, especially with all the social media and AI, it's definitely very important.
Speaking of AI, it's a very useful tool, but it's probably not the best if using it for companionship. We really need real human interaction.
All right. Well, Brandon, thank you again so much for joining today. This was great. If people want to connect with you or learn more about your business, where should they go?
Yeah, so my website is mustfulstrategicconsulting.com. Mustful is Mustful. You can find me online. I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. And like you said, I work with any community leader that needs a little help getting organized and making executable strategies to achieve their vision. Everybody, has goals of what they want to accomplish, but it's easy to get distracted. So I help you.
I did check out your website and I noticed that all of the services are listed as $0.
I was trying to figure out how to remove that from there. It's a highly customizable thing. When I consult with somebody, we talk about what the issues are. We talk about what some things are that we can do to address them. And so no matter what, like that service is going to be, the price is going to be different. It really depends on what we're trying to accomplish and how we're going to do that. So
yeah, that's what I had figured. I just thought, churches and nonprofits, maybe there's a chance that he does this all for free.
And maybe someday, if I can get to that point, that'd be great.
For sure. All right. Well, thanks again. Until next time, my name's Jaden Parisi. This is the Pipeline and People podcast.